I have never been as pissed off or felt so betrayed by the United States government as I do right now. I'm going to take apart a video today. And in this video, I want to try and explain to you what I'm seeing that's making me mad, and hopefully you'll see the same thing. The video is Secretary of the Department of Labor being
I'm at the
interviewed.
Department of Labor with Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
The Labor Department launched Project Firewall to address H-1B abuses. How many companies has the DOL prosecuted so far for the breach of H-1B program rules?
Yeah, exactly. Project Firewall is our enforcement initiative under the auspice of the Department of Labor for very specific reasons, and that's to investigate companies for making sure that we're eliminating any waste, fraud, and abuse that are deployed against American workers. Everything that I do at the Department of Labor is to protect the American workforce. So we have...
Notice how she started to say Americans, but she specified America workforce. For those who are not familiar, they now break down the workforce into the Table A7 data, which has the foreign-born and the native-born workers. The two of those combined together make the workforce. Well, if it was maybe 5 or 10% foreign-born to 95% American, it wouldn't be no big deal. But the problem is, right now it's about 50-50. I think it's 54 to 46 or something like that. Latest time I looked at it. So it is a big deal. People are losing things left and right. As an example, let me figure out how to do this, and we'll show you. Yes, I realize I should have a bigger staff, and we should have all this and all that, but we don't. It's a one-man show. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. This one right here is the one I want to show you. Lady says, just used up the husband's 401k. Our savings emptied out due to every other year layoff. He's been searching for a project manager position since August 2024. Yet the Secretary of Labor and our corporations would have us believe they can't find any qualified employees. Folks, I myself, out of the last 22 years, have been unemployable, probably half of them. Sure, I've survived fixing mowers and stuff like that, but that's not what Department of Labor is supposed to be doing. The Department of Labor right now is actually working to destroy American workers, and that's BS. Now, you'll notice that she said that Americans must be offered the jobs before the H-1B, right? Well, what you're looking at here is fact sheet number 620. And the second paragraph says the H-1B employer is not required to recruit U.S. workers unless it is H-1B dependent or a previous willful violator of H-1B requirements. So you go down here to the bottom. Right here. Must U.S. workers be offered jobs for which H-1B workers are sought? Yes, U.S. applicants must be offered such jobs in some circumstances. If the employer is H-1B dependent or a willful violator of H-1B requirements, a U.S. worker who applies for jobs which an H-1B worker sought must be offered a job if he or she is equally or better qualified than an H-1B applicant. Smoke and mirrors, folks. Smoke and mirrors. It's very few percentage of the H-1B employers are willful violators or H-1B dependent. So in other words, for about 95% of the H-1B applications, they don't have to offer the American employer squat, period. That's wrong. So we're going to fight. Let's look at the mission statement of the Department of Labor. Our mission: to foster, promote, and develop the welfare of the wage earners, job seekers, and retirees of the United States. It says nothing about nobody from any other country. Improve working conditions. Advance opportunities for profitable employment. When we import more foreign-born non-immigrant guest workers to take jobs and we create jobs for, that does not advance the opportunities for profitable employment. What happens, especially when they use caste and nepotism to move themselves to the head of the line, is Americans get kicked under the bus and run over by a steamroller. It's BS. It's time for the Department of Labor to stand up for Americans in America. And the final paragraph: and assure work-related benefits and rights. Nothing in there says anything about foreign-born workers.
That's what those programs are for. H-1B visa program. You want to advertise to the American worker first. You want to make sure that you cannot find an American worker first, and then you can apply for an H-1B visa program. So is there space in the law for this? Yes. But the goal is to make sure that we have a trained workforce. So if these companies are going to use the program, we want to make sure that they're also training American workers so that we can offer it to them first. And that if they're going to use the program within the program, they're not abusing that by either not advertising correctly where these jobs are posted. And that's why these investigations have been launched, because if a company is going to depress American wages, not advertise accordingly, not report that a worker has left their company, we need to report that out to USCIS so that we know where these workers are. So there's a lot of compliance issues. We want to make sure that we're working with those companies so they do comply. But if they're not going to, that's why we have this enforcement initiative. And that's, again, to protect the American worker first.
So I think you understand after watching this short video that the goal is not to find qualified Americans. I put the web page of Jobs Now in there because I wanted you to know that it exists. These folks are doing a good job at finding these hidden job opportunities that are being denied to Americans and exposing them. We need more people like that. It's time to hang these employers for what they're doing to Americans. And I don't mean hang as in hang them. I mean it's time to expose them. Name them and shame them. There's not an employer out there, big or small, that isn't depriving American citizens of jobs. That is destroying the American citizen. We've got people now that have given up looking for work, that are trying to live in the vans, cargo trailers converted, on their own land out in the boonies, just trying to survive. And at the same time, our government agencies at the state levels are doing what they can to make it illegal for them to live in their vans or live on their own land or any number of ways of coping with what's going on. How is this helping the American workforce? By depriving Americans of jobs so that they can't find jobs, and then mandating that they have to get a job or they'll lose Medicaid when the jobs don't exist and the employers are hiding them. How does any of this accomplish anything? Who in the hell at our highest levels is working to build an America for Americans? To account for all things that Americans are going through, whether they can find jobs or can't find jobs, whether they're old, young. Speaking of young, I first become concerned about Generation Z when I heard from a kid that was graduating from MIT. When I was young, if you graduated from MIT, you were set for life. Now I hear they can't find jobs. What kind of BS is that?